Welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mary Avery Cabrick, school psychologist, dyslexia expert, and author of award-winning Once Upon a Time, a Sparrow. Did you know the most persistent myth about dyslexia is that we see letters and numbers backwards? And this visual perceptual problem is our primary challenge in learning to read and write. The engine perpetuating this myth is the fact that while all children initially struggle with reversing letters, children with dyslexia continue to do so well beyond second grade. Is dyslexia a visual processing problem? In the next 4 minutes, I will give the condensed version of 2 recent studies that examine this myth. I'll provide the link so that you could check out the research for yourself. The first study compared 2 groups of college students, dyslexic and non-dyslexic. How do the 2 groups match in their ability to recall a set of made-up letter-like symbols? Unlike the alphabet, there was no name or sound attached to these symbols. This was purely a visual task. The symbols were created in a way to make them confusing. Mirror images similar to DB, letter size changes, busy background, low contrast background. The results, the control and the dyslexic groups had similar scores across all letter identification conditions, including reversals. What slowed down or created errors in one group equally hampered the other. So, if reading only involved visual processing of letters, there would be no dyslexia, which is not to say that a minority of individuals struggle with reading due to visual impairments. The second study only used non-dyslexic subjects, children age 5 to 12 and adults, to examine developmental changes that occur in their brains during perception of letters reversed and not. It's important to keep in mind that reading and writing came late in the game of human evolution. Our brains were designed to recognize an object regardless of orientation. Having a brain that's not sensitive to orientation helped our ancestors to recognize a predator, no matter what direction it was facing. A huge benefit to staying alive. But in order to differentiate letters such as B and D, children need to unlearn the natural way of recognizing objects and learn to notice orientation. Using functional MRI, researchers were able to document the areas of the brain activated in response to the presentation of letters reversed and not reversed. A reminder, the children aged 5 to 12 were developmentally on target with their reading. What they found is that the children, even as old as age 12, had the same amount of activation in the same area of the brain, regardless of whether they were viewing typically oriented or reversed letters. That is to say, their brains showed no indication of noticing letter orientation. The adults, however, had a much different response. The activation for reversed letters was widespread into additional regions beyond where object recognition typically occurs, and they took slightly longer to register the reversed letters. This study suggests it is natural for all children, even those who are good readers, to lack immediate recognition of letters. With practiced reading skill, the activation in our brains expands into regions that further support letter perception, allowing for the distinction between typical and reversed letters. So, if all children are naturally blind to letter orientation until as late as 12 years old, why is it that only dyslexic children continue to reverse letters? The simple answer is, those without dyslexia develop reading skills. Not because of stronger visual skills, but because they grasp the relationship between speech sounds and letters. Phonemic awareness is the best predictor of future reading success, and it is the most common deficit among children with dyslexia. Wait a minute, what does this have to do with letter reversals? Strong phonemic awareness translates to strong reading skills, which in turn brings increased exposure to words. And that increased exposure to words is the magic key that prevents letter reversals. Think about it. The typical second grader reads 60 words a minute. If they only read 10 minutes a day, 5 days a week, they would be exposed to 3,000 words each week. Words that are spelled correctly with lots of redundant letter patterns. Patterns children implicitly learn through exposure. For example, letter B followed by an L is common, whereas a D followed by an L simply doesn't happen. In spelling the word blue, it is unlikely that a non-dyslexic second grader would reverse the letter B, since the visual configuration of a D followed by an L has never been seen. It would look odd to someone exposed to lots of words, but not so odd to someone, a child, who has not been exposed to lots of words. Is dyslexia a visual processing disorder? A slim minority of children may struggle with reading due to visual issues. Most children with dyslexia have weak phonemic awareness, leading to decreased exposure to words. Reversing letters is a consequence of delayed reading, not the cause. Without ongoing exposure to thousands of words, children miss out on the opportunity to implicitly learn common letter patterns, patterns that support visual recognition of correctly oriented letters in the context of words. If this was helpful, please like and share. Thank you.